Hello and welcome back to the Pulse Social Sports podcast, where this week we're talking to Andy Blow, a member of Precision Hydration, a company who is centred around athletes but also has a lot of sporting that takes place during their workplace environment. Just wanted to open out and say a massive thanks for coming on the show and taking your time speaking to us.
No, that's absolutely fine. We're happy to have a conversation about these kind of things. My name's Andy Blow. I'm originally from the Midlands, from Leicestershire. Live down on the south coast in the UK now, in Christchurch in Dorset. And I studied sport and exercise science as an undergraduate many years ago, alongside running my business, which is called Precision Hydration, and we're very interested in electrolyte loss in athletes. That was a huge Achilles heel for me, racing in hot conditions. So we innovated the use of medical technology in sport to test sweat and to analyse sweat sodium concentration from athletes. And we've also developed a range of electrolyte replacement products in different strengths and educational resources to go with them online to help athletes, sort of optimise their performance, especially in the heat.
No, definitely. And I understand that you did the 2018 Devices to Westminster.
Yes, I did. I had a crack at that. Unfortunately, it was a shortened year, but yeah, I did it with my business partner, Johnny Ty.
And what? Sorry, what inspired the two of you to do the Devices to Westminster as a company, as Team Precision Hydration? Was it?
Lots of things really. There's a bit of history with the DW in our respective backgrounds, Johnny and myself. So although I came from a triathlon background, I knew a fair bit about the DW because my uncle was a paddler. My cousin was a K1 paddler. He was actually a world marathon kayaking champion. Both he and my uncle have done the DW in the past. I did the DW a few years, I think it was around 2015 or 16. I did it with my brother. And I've always had such a huge amount of respect for the event. It's a huge challenge, but it's so understated and so grassroots. It's fantastic. The antithesis of a lot of the way that modern, commercialized sport has gone. And from Johnny's perspective, Johnny is a thoroughbred out and out kayak racer. He's raced for Great Britain on numerous occasions, double silver medalist at World Marathon Championships in Singapore in the K1 and K2 marathons. So sort of with my background in long endurance stuff like Ironman and Johnny's background in out and out kayaking, we thought we'd make a reasonably good team and thought we'd have a go at it. And it was quite a lot of fun, training for it and preparing.
No, definitely. And just to jump the topic a little bit, you said earlier in an interview, we wanted to do it as we needed to focus on something that wasn't work. We spend a lot of time working and it can take over if you're not careful. Do you think that sport is a good distraction from work, but can also complement your working mindset, if that makes sense?
Definitely. It's a big part of the ethos of the way we run the company at Precision Hydration, because most of us are athletes at whatever level. When you run a startup or any sort of small enterprise or sort of small to medium sized enterprise, I think you can get very, very sucked into work being everything. And at times it has to be, because if you're going to get a business off the ground, you have to go above and beyond. But after a few years, I think Johnny and I recognised that there was a danger of work taking up too much of our lives. And one good antidote to that was to have what we sort of now call a BHAG, which is a big, hairy, audacious goal, which you should have outside of your day-to-day life. And for us, a sporting goal was always a good one. It definitely gets you collaborating, working together. And we've actually gone a bit further this year in 2021 with there's now 11 people in the business, and all 11 of us have set a BHAG for this year, a sporting goal to do something which scares us a little bit, so that we've got something. And we actually now have got a policy where we take Friday afternoons off work. So, and the idea with that is not that it's mandated, but the idea of that is to have extra time to get a decent long training session in if you're trying to prepare for something interesting.
No, that's really interesting with the being able to take Friday afternoons off work. And obviously, so you've said it's not it's not compulsory, but it's optional. And out of curiosity, how many of your 11 work staff, if you like, take this opportunity and use it to work towards something?
Most people do most of the time. So I don't think there's anyone who's not, and everyone's got a goal. And most of the time now, people are tending to knock off at about 1 o'clock on a Friday and go out and do something. And we have our little cheesy hashtag, which is Fizz Friday. So that goes out on Instagram and goes out in our newsletter sometimes to show, our customer base and our readers what the team are doing. We've got all sorts of goals. Someone is actually, one of the other members of the team is having a crack at DW this year, although they're going to do it not in the official capacity of the event, but do as much of the route as is legal at a warmer time of the year when they've got a bit more time to prepare, because they're actually learning pretty much from scratch, like being a non-paddler, to go for it. So it is quite an audacious goal. But we've got other people who are doing someone's doing an Ironman. We've got Xterra off-road triathlon, I think a trail ultra marathon, and so on and so forth. So people have really got into the idea.
No, definitely. That actually sounds really interesting, and just kind of having all these different sporting goals from all of these different individuals. Do you think that involving sports in the workplace can improve kind of the workplace morale and the dynamics between you and your colleagues?
I really do think it can. That's a reason why we're keen to pursue it, because there's no outside of, I've always been into sport largely from a competitive standpoint, or certainly was when I was younger, but increasingly as I started to get older, I realized the benefits that it gave me outside of competition. So being fit and healthy, traveling, having goals to orientate towards, and that sort of thing. So I do think it plays a hugely positive role. I think it complements so many things that we have chosen to actively encourage it. I mean, I remember my first proper job when I left university, which was in about 99, 2000, and I was working in sports science at the time for a Formula One racing team, and we were designated a lunch hour where we could go training, and I used to go bike riding or running with a group of people from the F1 factory. And the sort of management there realized this was a really positive thing and gave some of the guys, depending on what department they were in, an extra 15 minutes or so on their lunch hour to shower if they went out and did a decent exercise session. So that was sort of an early indication to me that it was a good idea, and I thought that was a great idea, that people would kind of be encouraged to do that rather than just sort of sitting around smoking or whatever on their lunch break. If you went out and rode your bike, you could get an extra 15 minutes of time to have a shower and sort yourself out.
No, definitely. And then linking to the previous question, would you say that doing the DW and completing the unfortunately shortened 54-mile event brought you closer to Johnny and made working together easier?
Yeah, I mean, Johnny and I are sort of really close mates anyway, from what we've gone through with the business, because we took the business from the brink of going under really into gradually building it up to make it a more successful enterprise, able to employ some more people. So we've been through some interesting times together anyway. I think what was really nice about it for me was that Johnny's quite a bit younger than me, and he is these days every bit my equal in the business, and certainly, in fact, very superior to me in a lot of areas, like operationally and stuff. He is basically the operational brains behind the business these days. But in the early days, he was learning a lot from me as he was coming up through, and it was great for me to be able to jump in and do something which was a little bit more on his terms, so as in I could really learn from him. I learned a lot about my paddling technique. I learned a lot about things. So it was a really good leveler, because as I said before, I sort of brought a bit of experience of just doing long, hard endurance events and having done the DW before. But in terms of, kayaking prowess, there's just no comparison. So it was good for us to be able to find that, meet in the middle on it. And I think it definitely did. It certainly sort of like strengthened the bond that going through something which is really tough like that with a colleague is a really good a really good test. We always used to say early on in the business, Johnny and I would travel a lot together, and we would spend very long days on the road, sharing hotel rooms, spending basically 24 hours a day in each other's company. And if you can do that successfully for a while, then you're destined to probably be quite good colleagues. But you find out pretty quickly if you can or you can't. And so most people who come and work for the company before coronavirus anyway ended up on the road with one of us for a week or two, sort of living out of a suitcase and trying to figure out if they're a good fit. And now it is again difficult at the moment, but we have carried a bit of that on with a bit of running at lunchtime from the office when we're all there in different ability sort of level groups and people getting together to do stuff. So yeah, it's a great way to build relationships that go beyond just being colleagues.
No, definitely, I completely agree with that. And obviously, so you've got someone in your company who's going to try the DW in further on down the road. Do you think that you and Johnny would have another crack at it? Because you came third, I believe, last time, didn't you?
Yeah, I think we were sort of like running in third when it stopped. When I did it with my brother, we were just outside the top 10. We did it in about 20 hours. So that was annoying to miss 20 hours by a handful of minutes. So there is an itch to scratch there. I'd like to go under 20 hours. And I think, jumping in the boat with Johnny would make that more plausible. We've talked about doing it again. I've now got two young children. So there's a challenge there in terms of like how much time you could realistically dedicate. But I reckon at this stage, I'd say I'd be surprised if we don't get back in the boat at some point and have another go.
And then one final question, if you don't mind. Would you personally say that involving sport in the workplace can bring colleagues close together, but also help for the mental and physical health of all employees? And do you think that more employers should be taking this into consideration?
I believe so, and I have a very biased outlook on that from everything you've just learned about me as an individual. But I'm a huge believer in the good that sport can do, and I know that there's a lot of research now into the mental health benefits of sport. That obviously the physical health benefits are huge. Getting people to collaborate on working together to goals. It's a source of a lot of the banter in our office, is what people are doing sporting wise. We've got some really talented people that work for us, like Greg, who's he's recently joined the customer service team in the business, is an ex-professional cricketer. But now he's turning his hand to triathlon, and we've got JP, who's our head of customer service, who's actually a very good triathlete. So he helps Greg with his training as well as everything else. It's really good. I think you've always got to be careful as an employer. There are obviously going to be people who just don't want to do sport or don't participate in it in there, and I think creating a culture where people are ostracized for like not wanting to do it is obviously quite negative. But at the same time, allowing opportunities. We've done things like set up the cycle to work scheme so people can access tax-free bikes if they want to do that, and all those. So I would always I think a few years ago, if you'd have asked me, I would have been all for sort of almost forcing people to do it, if you see what I mean. But I think as I've got older and worked with more people, I think it would be fantastic for employers in general to create the opportunities for people to like having extra time off, like having access to funds and things to help cover the costs of their sporting hobbies. Getting out of people's way and actively encouraging them to do it is a really good thing. So I'd always be behind that.
No, definitely. That sounds absolutely. And the cycle to work scheme as well. That sounds just like a really good step forward in just so many areas. I just want to say thanks so much for taking your time and coming out and talking to us.
No worries, Paddy. Good to talk to you, and I hope.
A massive thank you to Andy for coming on the show, and a massive thanks to our listeners at home as well. If you're interested in more content like this, please like and subscribe to our Facebook, our Twitter, our LinkedIn, or our YouTube at Social CIC. That's all we've got time for. See you next week.